Good morning, everybody. This cold Wednesday here in the suburb of Philadelphia known as Glen Mills. Still pretty cold and chilly out. And I took my winter coats upstate, so everything I'm wearing are just like these mufflers, these sweaters, and I have another jacket. But I want to give you an update. I was telling you the other day that I got a smartphone last year, and I was finally brave enough to figure out how to hook it up. But I still carry my handy flip phone for my pocket. So the other one is going to be my landline. But I have it all hooked up. I haven't done the email yet, but I at least have it charged and I have it on, and I have the ringtone all set up, so I know that the thing works. So I'll keep you posted on that. But I'm just simply saying you don't have to be real smart how to figure these things out. That's where YouTube comes in. You can put the phone in and it'll show you how to do it on YouTube. Some guy's smart enough to figure that out. But today I want to do a follow-up on what I talked about the other day. If you're following me at church the other day, I was talking about the 1852 church over here in stones and how the stones all have to fit together, and sometimes you have to carve the stones down a little bit to make them fit. As you know, I lived in the city many years, and a lot of the houses in the city were old. In fact, the house that I grew up in as a kid was probably built about 1910, 1920. You know, when they built those houses those days, it was just row houses, 30 down one side, 30 down the other. But in recent years, once in a while, you hear on the news that a house collapsed. The whole front of the house just fell off, or the side of the house fell off, or the back of the house fell off. And you say to yourself, my goodness gracious, how did something like that happen? And it has to do with the bricks. You see, because when the bricks are put together, they take sand and mortar and they make a cement. And what they do is they put the cement between the bricks. And what happens over time is that cement that holds the bricks together begins to crumble and wither because of rain or storms or wind or just aging. When bricks get tired, the mortar also gets tired. It begins to chip and fall out. And so there's nothing to hold the bricks together. And so you wake up one morning, go outside, and the house next door just went, the whole thing just fell down. Now, thank God, people are usually safe in those things and nobody usually gets hurt, but the front of the house went down. I remember a couple of years ago in Fishtown, that happened to one of the neighbors' houses. The thing just came right down. Again, thank God nobody was hurt. What is that cement that holds the bricks or the stones together? Well, it's an important element. There's a certain tool you need to do to put that in. It's called a trowel. It goes there. But there's an analogy with that in terms of the church. As I shared with people the other day, the Christ is the cornerstone of the church, and you and I are all the stones that somehow just build up the edifice. What is that cement that holds the bricks together? It's the sacraments. The sacraments are the life of the church. There's a modern day Fulton Sheen. His name is Bishop Robert Barron. He runs this organization out of Chicago called Word of Fire. I've used some of his tapes here on the sacraments and pivotal players and over the course of the years, but he's coming out with a new gig, and it's going to come out around the 18th of May, and it's called The Sacraments. What are the sacraments? The sacraments are the things that holds the church together and gives the church its life and sustains it in times that are difficult, in the storms that we somehow face in life. Now we find ourselves in this epidemic that has paralyzed the whole world, and look what has happened to the church because of this pandemic. We can't celebrate the sacraments. Can't go over and do Mass for the folks, either daily or Sunday. I do Mass here in the dining room. We tape this thing for Sunday. It's a one-time shot for the week. The daily Mass is out the window. The sacrament of baptism is a regular thing at St. Thomas. We christen these little babies. We haven't done any babies in months. Not that there's not babies, it's just that parents have postponed the christenings because they can't bring a whole lot of people into the ceremony. And then you got the weddings. So the weddings that we've had scheduled here throughout the spring and the summer, all are off. They've all postponed them, and hopefully they're going to set them up for next year. They're getting their money back from the venues, and we're not doing the weddings. The sacrament of the anointing of the sick, we have 5 institutions here at St. Thomas. 1 is the hospital, 3 are nursing homes, and 1's the jail. Well, I don't anoint the prisoners in jail because most of those guys are not dying or they're near death. But we do get calls for the anointing of the sick. I can't go into Riddle Hospital. I can't anoint anybody that's dying. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, they called when somebody's dying, and the best we could do is put a phone to the person's ear and say some prayers with them. The ordinations to the priesthood were scheduled this weekend. There were 6 men supposed to be ordained. They've had to postpone it until the end of June, and it might even be postponed after that. If the sacraments are those things that hold the stones together in the church, if the sacraments are not celebrated, the church is in danger of collapsing. Now, do I think that's going to happen? I don't know. But it brings me to the point of this epidemic. So where did this come from? So people are pointing at China, say the market's in China, or maybe a laboratory in China. You know, I kind of kept this to myself a little bit and talked a little bit about it to maybe some of the visionaries or some of my priest friends. But I want to say this publicly today. There's a force, there's a powerful force that's denying the church from celebrating its life. And that's the power of the demonic. Do I think that the devil has his hand in this thing? I'm beginning to think that he does. I'm beginning to think that he does. The sacraments are the life of the church that hold it together. If the sacraments are not celebrated, the church is going to be in trouble. And so we must certainly pray. Jesus said some things only change in life because of prayer and fasting. Maybe we need to do a little bit more praying, and maybe we have to do some substantial fasting to ask for God's grace to be more powerful than the hand of darkness. The hand of Jesus would remove this darkness from the earth so the church again can go back and to celebrate its life and the joy that the sacraments bring to us. I encourage you, if you have access to a computer or a web page or something, go onto that web page, wordofire.org. Bishop Aaron will come up. He's been given an introduction to this new series which is coming out. I think you'll find it worthwhile. I know the 2 times that I watched it so far, I was just kind of impressed. I can't wait till it's published, and I want to get some copies of that for myself. But in the meantime, maybe you can kind of check it out. And secondly, in the meantime, every day, pray and fast. The hand of God will become more powerful than the hand of darkness. And the hand of Jesus that brings life and salvation and joy to people's lives will allow this pandemic to remove from the face of the earth. So again, the churches will be full, babies will be christened, people will be baptized, the dead will be buried, and every day we will gather together around the table of the Lord to be nourished in the Word and celebrate the sacrament of the risen Lord's presence with us. My prayer. We'll see you tomorrow.